You have to keep moving to stay where you are. Will people come back next year because they really enjoyed it? If the answer is yes, then you've done something right.
What's been your biggest reinvention?
If you're invisible, you're forgettable.
He is a phenomenal public speaker.
Don't be yourself, be part of a team.
Let me ask you a straight question.
Every 3 months, AI is changing the landscape. Nobody wants to score points against each other. We just want the event to work.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sunny Shah Show. We're coming back to Dubai, talking with some of the greatest celebrities and people who've been really exponentially contributing to their fields. Today, I have one such individual who's been in Dubai for over 3 decades. He's a leadership coach. He is a phenomenal public speaker. He has been sharing stage with some of the most prominent celebrities across the globe. Please welcome 𝗗𝘃 on the show. Dev, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sunny. It's a pleasure to be here. And when you say 3 decades, I'm thinking, what? Yes, that's true. Oh my goodness, it flies past.
So Dev, you have been very kind to us. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be on the show.
Thank you so much.
And allowing me to talk to you on such a short notice, carving out of your busy schedule means a lot to us. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
Dev, you've been doing some great things here in Dubai and across the globe. You've been on some of the largest forums like World Economic Forum, GITEX. You also hosted the ICC World Cup here in Dubai.
True.
Tell us more about your experience around those forums and prominent leaders that you shared stage with.
Wow, that's going to take us all of about 20 hours to go through. I've worked in lots of different, probably one of the most unusual ones, but the ones I remember most vividly was I was doing a radio show. So I was doing 10 till 1 on Channel 4 FM in Ajman, which is just outside of Dubai. And I finished my show and I got a phone call saying, Dave, we need you to go straight down to 𝗗𝘃 Center, 𝗗𝘃 City. And I said, well, why? What's going on? They said, you'll find out when you get there. So I got down there and it was about maybe 5,000 people. It was in the middle of the summer, very hot, 5,000 people all gathered for a runway and a stage. And it was the opening of Planet Hollywood, Dubai. And wow. So I knew that we had our DJ set up. I knew that we had our Breakfast Club team there as well. So there's a few DJs and everyone was waiting for the stars to arrive. And when they did arrive, we had to wait for about an hour first, entertaining the audience, who were there to see the celebrities. And the list was Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, Amitabh Bachchan, Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, Cindy Crawford, 𝗗𝘃 𝗖𝗿. There's just non-stop stars coming up, and they all had to turn up in their own limousine and take the walk up a red carpet and throw out caps and t-shirts to everybody, then come on stage and you got a chance to interview them. So that was one of the most surreal events I've ever been to because of the fact that it was such a big impact for Dubai, probably talking about 20 years ago. And it was so big for Dubai because the rest of the world was watching and saying, why is this happening in Dubai? And it really helped to put Dubai on the map because we were going live to BBC, to MTV, CNN. Everyone's capturing Hollywood comes to Dubai to make a point. And what was a really interesting aspect of it is once we'd brought all the people on stage and I got to interview Bruce Willis and Wesley Snipes and so on, it was a really amazing event. They went through to the VIP lounge and we weren't invited in. The radio guys who held the event together for 4 hours, who were broadcasting across the world, weren't on the guest list. And the guy on the door wasn't going to let anybody in who was not on his guest list. So I went back to the bar where I'd worked, which was a sports bar. I was treated like a conquering champion going back. But it was one of those amazing things that lets you know that it doesn't matter who you are or what you think is going on, you're still the same as everybody else. Don't let it go to your head. And also that moment in time feels just like this moment in time. And it's only when you look back at it, you can remember what were the big ones and what were the bad ones. So for me, it's really a case of everything I take on, whether it's working and hosting GITEX, which I've done for like 30 years. The first time I ever hosted a GITEX, I was hired by, what are they called? One of the computer software companies hired me to be a rapper to go out as the rapper on behalf of their products, because their products had this sort of gimmicky character who had a baseball cap on back to front and would just go out and rap. So they got me to do this. I can't rap. Never could, never will, never wanted to. So I had to hold a bit of paper with a rap stuff on it. I had to go out, play the music, I had to rap over it in front of maybe, I don't know, 100 people who decided to stop and stare at me. I had to do it about 3 times a day for 4 days. And it was embarrassing beyond embarrassing. I hated everything. I'd only been in Dubai for about a month. So when somebody says, you're in Dubai now, it's like saying you're in Hollywood now. Do you want to do something? You don't say no. So I did the thing, and it was painful. I made some really good friends for life out of it, actually, who must have felt sorry for me. And one girl came up to me who was doing the, she was a presentations girl. She was handing out leaflets to people. She said, you hate that, don't you? I said, like you wouldn't believe. She asked me, how much money are you getting paid for this? So I told her. She said, I'm getting 3 times what you're getting paid to hand out leaflets.
Wow.
You need to go back and think about the gig that you did. And so on that wake-up call, from that point on, I was thinking, I need to ask, not just take it for granted that whenever I take an event, it's got to be the right one. But I've been blessed to have worked with numerous rock stars, James Brown's probably the biggest interview I've ever done. I worked with 𝗗𝗃 and the various Spice Girls. I hosted, as you mentioned, a T20 World Cup cricket. And I hosted Dubai Rugby Sevens for 20 years. That means going out in front of a potentially hostile crowd of 50,000 people, plus about 200 million watching at home around the world as the event takes place. And because they've enjoyed the hospitality far too much in the sunshine the 3 days, they are loud and they'll let you know if they're not happy. So for 20 years, I was blessed to be able to go out with a microphone and just play games with the audience, introduce stars, interview people, and all the rest of it. That was amazing, not just because it was an incredible event. When you get to sing Bohemian Rhapsody with 50,000 people, it's like the biggest karaoke experience you could ever have. But I got to be a leader of the team that stuck with me pretty much for 20 years. So after the first couple of years of us doing our job, it's so nice to turn around and everyone knows what their place is, but nobody wants to score points against each other. We just want the event to work. And that's a magical thing that I was blessed to have such an amazing team. But I think it's one of the things that in a world where we are right now, everyone's so worried about what their results are rather than the overall event. And so what you get from events is it's not about you, it's about will people come back next year because they really enjoyed it? If the answer is yes, then you've done something right. So, as I said, I could go on for 20 hours, but I'm not going to. I'll answer any question that you've got on that. But there's a whole range of things over many, many years. And when I look back at pictures and videos of me doing stuff, it's just like some little boy who just woken up and been thrown in front of an audience. So I cherish it all.
That's wonderful. You had an illustrious career in the spotlight for 30 long years, or maybe more. But let's rewind. Let's go to the earlier times back in the UK, where you hail from. As a young individual getting into an aspirational career, what got you into thinking that this is the path I want to take? I want to be in the media.
To answer that question, I think I need to readdress when you said you've been in the spotlight for 30 years. I've been in and out the spotlight for 30 years, but deliberately I stopped doing it for a period of time. Because and I'll explain in a moment. So I stopped doing it because I'd achieved all I wanted to achieve when I came to the UAE. And I found that being in the spotlight means that you've got to keep being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I found it very trivial because it's not the same as having friendships with real friends. It's being there and having to be optimized and smiling, all the rest of it. And that wasn't me. So to take us back to the origin story in the UK, the reason why I got into all this is I come from mixed parentage. My mum is from the West Indies, and so she's very dark-skinned. My father was from the UK, so very light-skinned. And so there's me in the middle. And we only grew up, as I was growing up 8 million years ago in the UK, where we lived didn't have many people of color. And so you have a couple of choices in your life. Do you decide, people are going to notice you anyway. If they notice you and you don't drive a narrative, they will make up their own choice as to who you are and what you are. So therefore, my mum and dad always drummed into me, if you're with friends and they start doing something naughty, walk away. Because what will happen is when somebody turns around and says, what happened? We'll say there was a black kid there. because they'll just notice it. That's human nature. So I always made a point of driving what happened next. And so the choice was really, do you decide that you defend yourself when you meet people? So do I become a fighter, or do I decide to befriend everybody? So do I become a comedian? And it wasn't a funny comedian. It's just that what you do is you realize how to create relationships with people. And so, if anything, my superpower was my ability to profile people, which later on was and it was a survival technique, which later on I realized became the ability to get the Wi-Fi code of any audience. So therefore, when I'm running these big events, my magical power is not because I'm really funny or great or whatever. It's because I'm able to profile who they are and what they need for the event to be a success for them and the sponsors and the showrunners. And so my entire childhood was based on how to fit in. And it was quite significant because in later years, I realized that you'll never fit in, but also nobody else ever really fits in anyway. We're all looking for that chance to say, come on, these are your people. And one of the most dangerous things you can do in today's climate is to get into a comfort zone because AI shifts things so quickly. So going back to my childhood, I was an entertainer from a very young age. And I was blessed to go to a school that had a very strong concert and singing department in the music department. We put on shows, and some of our shows worked really well, and we got elevated to do it in front of the whole town, not just in the school, which was amazing. And I entered a competition when I was 11. Well, I say I entered. My parents were encouraging me because I naturally enjoyed entertaining people. So I was in the equivalent of Britain's Got Talent, but I lived in Scotland at the time. So imagine there's Scotland's Got Talent, but it wasn't done on TV. It's done by a TV presenter who was very famous at the time, Archie McCulloch he was called. And it was done in all the theatres. So it was like a search for a star type competition where he recruited entertainers, took them on a tour of duty around a number of different theatres, and then they got the judges to vote for the ones that they thought were the best. And I came second, which is fantastic. I was very happy. I was 11 years old. And my parents said to me, the reason you probably came second is because they needed a star that they could parade. And they couldn't do that with an 11-year-old because you're at school. You can't go to do shows all over Scotland. Whereas a lady that won, that's her career. So one of the things that came as a spin-off from that, and I didn't realize it until maybe about 4-5 months ago, my mother told me because I lost my dad, unfortunately, to COVID, is she said that when you did that show, Search for a Star, because it was so bitchy behind the scenes and stabby in the back and really egos flying, your dad said, let's not do this anymore. Let's not push Dave as an entertainer. Let's just let him do whatever he decides to do. And I didn't realize it until then that they'd taken a foot off the gas, but somehow the gas was already running, and I ran with it myself anyway. And it makes perfect sense that I've created a career that they were always supportive with, but they weren't driving. Whereas I remember in the early days spending many, many hours just learning songs so I could do them on stage and so on. So I did that Search for a Star, and that worked out very, very well. Won some prize money, which was probably buttons nowadays, but in those days it seemed like a lot. And then we moved from Scotland to England. And when I moved, we had a completely different experience. I enjoyed entertainment, but went to a school that didn't really have entertainment in it. So when I started a school band, we didn't really have much to practice because nobody else was into entertainment. And so it kind of died there. And my career only took off when my friend took a job as a DJ and went on vacation and said, would you like to cover for me when I'm away? So I DJ'd in a nightclub for him while he was away. I was about 17, 18 years old, and then realized the power of playing music for people. I'd always wanted to be on what was called Radio 1 in the UK, which is a really big national radio station. And I'd always wanted to do the things that they did in the summer, which is to get on a stage in front of thousands of people, introduce pop stars, and have fun with the audience. That for me was a pinnacle of everything, which I actually got to do a lot in Dubai. And so my career was going away to holiday camps to learn to be an entertainer. That was very important. Sorry, before that I studied law. Right. Dropped out, did 2 years and hated it. I'm not a lawyer now, but I knew that the difference would be you didn't have to be a lawyer to make law as an impact for people. So I realized that wasn't the way I was going to go. But then I became a journalist with the BBC later on. Became an entertainer, so I knew how to work audiences. Then went to the BBC, started doing radio, but the only way, at the time the BBC had shifted from being an entertainment house to being a journalism place. So therefore, if you're an entertainer, it's kind of frowned upon. You have to be a hard news journalist, which wasn't me, still isn't me. I have a real interest in what's going on, but I don't want to be that guy who talks about politics. But that was the only way in. So I did all that stuff, was a radio reporter, and then I went on Blind Date. And I know that you wanted to ask me a question about Blind Date. I will refer back to that in a moment. But what I would say is Blind Date was an incredible experience. I won the Christmas show in front of 20 million people. And after that, I thought, right, I'll get a chance to get some TV work out of it. Nothing came through because it was chicken and egg. Love what you've done. What else have you done? I can't do anything else until you give me a chance to prove it. Well, we can't give you anything else until you got something else. And so, very frustrated, I decided to leave the UK. Came out to Dubai just to be a DJ in a bar. I dropped my career and everything else. I was just wanted to travel, go somewhere new. And when I came to Dubai, I found that 30 years ago, it was considered by many people to be a hardship post. So it was an evolving country. And so people being paid a fortune, go to Dubai and make things happen, by people who clearly weren't in Dubai, realizing what a great place it was.
Yep.
And so being an entertainer and a DJ was really important because people needed to feel home from home. There's no internet at the time. There's no social media. So what you have in front of you is everything. And so that whole relationship that you're creating with the audience was instrumental. A radio station started up at that time, 104.8 Channel 4 FM, and because I had an ex-BBC career and my friend sort of like introduced me to the owners, before I know it, I'm presenting when they did the launch. And so I was doing weekends, and then I became a full-time presenter, and then I became a station manager within 2 years, which was astounding. And during that time, I got to work with major stars, because in those days, everything that happened in Dubai, and Dubai was attracting everything, went to radio stations, but our radio station had entertainers based at it. It wasn't the old guard, as it were.
Right.
And so I was blessed to have some of the best opportunities to be the guy that would interview celebrities and get to host these big events. And I was an entertainer by trade anyway. And then about, let's see, probably about 10 years into my career, I decided to stop. And the reason I decided to stop was because my career in Dubai was not about wanting to be famous. My career in Dubai was about telling the UK, look what you missed out on, if that makes sense.
It does.
So once I'd got to the point where I didn't need to prove anything to anybody, I thought, well, why am I trying so hard? The next thing I want is just to have a family. So I settled down with a beautiful wife. We had a daughter, and I resigned from radio. And everyone said, you're crazy. Why would you do that? And because it started to feel empty to me, it wasn't where I wanted to be anymore. And so I still had big gigs. I was still doing rugby sevens. I was still doing corporate events and so on. But I realized that that phase of being a DJ, if I didn't evolve out of it, then I'd be the oldest DJ in town. And in my opinion, that's not the coolest place to be. It's a young man's game.
True.
Tolerance was changing. Also the fact that, technology was meaning that you could replace a DJ with an iPad at the time, or an iPod it was, where you could just plug it in, play music in a bar, and it was be as good as anything for majority of people. So I realized that the thing was changing. And so I stopped doing entertainment almost completely from the radio point of view. But then I discovered a really fascinating concept called the Red Queen's hypothesis. Do you know about this?
No.
So the Red Queen's hypothesis is from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And the Red Queen says, you have to keep moving to stay where you are. Mm-hmm. So therefore, in business, entertainment, and all the rest of it, if you stop doing what you're doing, then everything stops for you, but the rest of the world keeps moving. It's like running on a treadmill. If you jump off a treadmill keeps going, but everyone moves past. And so if you decide to get back into it, it's not the same landscape that you left. Within a very short amount of time, there's other stars, there's other celebrities, there's other people more important. Not only do they not know you, but they don't care about you, and that gap has been filled by somebody else.
Yep.
And so, as I'm now getting back into the entertainment and influence world, my role is very different. I'm not interested in being a star. I have to do starry things to prove I can still do it, because I train people to be stars. I mentor them. And so I don't burn as brightly as I used to, but I don't want to. What I do is I show people their route to burn really brightly in front of people. And that for me means I evolve into an Amitabh Bachchan, into a Yoda, into a Ben Kenobi type character, normally played by Morgan Freeman or somebody,
Right.
where I'm the older guy who's been there and done it, but doesn't need to prove himself too often. And for me, that's really comfortable because my ego doesn't drive this. I have a young family and I love what I do, and getting the right balance of all those things, not because of the end result, because you can't choose an end result. It's an adventure that continues forever and you can't stop doing it. But sometimes it's nice to walk rather than run so you can see the scenery as you go.
Yeah, that's it. There is an interesting aspect of what I heard. You got to get into, you won the blind date with Cilla Black, 1994. Tell us more about it. It's very
So
interesting.
you're a fan of blind dates? Is that why you're bringing it up?
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
The strange thing about blind dates is it was a cultural phenomenon that they did try to bring back again in the UK. And it didn't quite work the same way because the host of the show, which was a pop star in the 60s and 70s called Cilla Black, is no longer with us. But she had a magical way of being a great presenter, but also understanding that the stars of the show were not her. It was the guys who were coming on to choose between each other as dates. And she got the right balance of it, which made it a really entertaining reality TV show. And it was one of the very first reality TV shows to take off. Now, after Big Brother and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and everywhere you look, there's something which is driving people to need to be famous. And so being famous is a massive currency now. And probably worth more than money to many people, just being recognized. So I went on blind date. I won the Christmas show, probably because I had a red suit on. And it was a really interesting thing. So 30 years ago, almost to this year, it was 30 years ago this year, last Christmas, I won the blind date show. And about a month ago, I met one of the guys who was on the show, came to Dubai. I'd never met him before since then. And we had a coffee with him and his wife and me, and we're just getting on like a house on fire. It was fantastic. We'd stayed in contact-ish on social media. How's it going? Happy Christmas? That kind of thing every couple of years. But the chance to get together was great because we could then tell stories. And I did a 30-year anniversary show on Zoom that I broadcast on YouTube and LinkedIn, of myself, the girl I went on a date with, and the guy that participated as one of my rivals. Because we didn't have surnames at the time, it was impossible to chase the other guy, because where do you find him? So none of us had his contact details. So we did a Zoom call, and we all talked about what's happened in our lives since then, and what we've been up to, and what we thought about. And there's a secret that I haven't told people about what I did with Blind Date to allow me to win. And I'll share it with you now exclusively. So remember, it's a reality TV show. I was working at the time as a BBC journalist, so my job is to reverse engineer results from people and also work out what's going on underneath the surface. So what happened in the dating game, in Blind Date, is you had one person and then a wall and then three people. The person would ask three questions. Each person had to answer them in order, and then they'd choose who they wanted to be on a date with. And so when we were doing the show, we had four guys who spent the time together. One guy was from the local market who was there as a substitute just in case, was told that later on in the season he'd be given his own show to be a picker, so that's why he came along every week to help out. We're told as well the show is not about any one individual, it's about the fact that collectively you want people to remember the episode.
Right.
So we got on like a house on fire because it wasn't me, it was us, and we got on really well. So there was one part where we were given the questions in advance and we're sitting around the table, and you got all the producers and directors. We'd never met the girl, no idea, you don't see her until the screen goes back. And we were given some questions that we had to write down the answers for so we could memorize them to say on the show. And everyone's writing away, stuff like that. And it suddenly occurred to me, how do I reverse engineer this? So I'm going to throw a question at you. Sunny, how would you reverse engineer and win that show?
I wouldn't have an answer to that.
Okay, I'll put you out of your misery. Remember, it's a personality show, but it's still a game show. And at the end of the day, winning is everything, and not winning is you were on the show, big deal. I sat there writing down my answers, and then I realized they need to produce a show.
Right.
They've got a time constraint because they've got an audience waiting for us. What if I don't write down any answers? What if I say, I have no idea what to write down and crowdsource the answers from the directors, from the producers, from my colleagues who are like competing against me? And we did. They gave me great answers that were always going to win because they win every single week.
Wow.
I just had to learn them. And that was my secret of how I managed to win. Because there's another guy, the guy that I met in Dubai, who's just is a lovely guy. And it's called Terry McCartney. I'll give him a plug for this. And Terry was by far closer to what the girl was looking for. She hated me. We didn't get on. We had the most terrible date. We got on really well now, because years later, who cares? But she was so disappointed. The screen went back. She's like, oh, look, and it came back for me, and she's like, okay. But what it did was, I pitched for lots of work in the UK, didn't get it, but I was very well recognized. But one of the things I want to share is, because the show was filmed in advance and then shown a couple of weeks later, when I actually won the Christmas show, I was actually in the UK waiting for the next episode to be shown. It's a week later, but it had already been recorded. So I went shopping the next day, Boxing Day. I went shopping in a big store in a shopping mall in Newcastle, and everyone recognized me. I mean, everyone recognized me. Everywhere I went, it just had people staring at me and pointing. And it was the weirdest possible feeling. You think it's nice to be celebrated and looked at by everybody, but it's not like that. It was literally like somebody who's hungry looking at a meal that they're going to have next and making opinions on whether they like it or not. Because people weren't smiling with me, they were smiling at me, or frowning at me, or talking to each other at me. And it was really weird to have that experience. And I can only imagine what it's like to be a Will Smith, or a Johnny Depp, or an Amitabh Bachchan, or The Rock. Some of them are notorious for being terrible at being in public because they get really angry. Sean Penn hates photographers, will fight with them. Johnny Depp, similar thing. Or The Rock, where wherever he's sitting there having his dinner, he's taking about 1,000 selfies with everybody who wants to get that picture. And it planted something in my head about the importance of the right kind of celebrity. You want to be respected for being really good at what you do, but you don't want to be currency. So wherever you go, people will decide that they need something from you. If you drop the ball badly, then everything you've built up drops with it. That's why people get cancelled all the time. And so my own evolution is I now train people to become industry icons and thought leaders, which means that if you're really good at what you do, then you can be paid for it and become a celebrity in it. But they're not doing it based on your personality. If you have personality, that's a plus, but it won't stop you being successful at what you do. And so, for instance, if we take the richest man on the planet, Elon Musk, very divisive figure. Some people love him, some people hate him. But you can't argue with his ability to be Tony Stark and understand the technology and how to get us to Mars and get us in flying machines. He can do that. Why would you don't have to choose to like the guy, but you can put money on him working out how to get to Mars and get it populated. So it's an interesting thing that we're in right now, where people will choose based on what's in it for me, and they'll also make opinions on you as to what matters. Years ago, after I realized that and been on the radio for quite some time, I got myself in a celebrity position where everyone was recognizing me. I was invited to everything all the time because I was currency, I was money. Having Dave there with his girlfriend or his friends meant that the event was happening, the restaurant was launched. But when I resigned, because I just had enough of it, politics and all sorts of stuff went into it, I stopped getting invitations the next day. I stopped being useful. And I never got that back again. And I'm so glad that's what happened, because it makes you realize how unimportant it really is. And also you get to know your real friends. When I left a radio station, I had about 8 friends that didn't care whether I was on the radio or not. And I went kind of underground a little bit, still did gigs, had to get paid. But the main thing was, when I was socializing, it was 4 couples who would all go out together, and all the big invitations to all the big events just dried up and stayed that way. And when you experience that, you can put it into perspective. That's my job. It's not me. It's not that people love me, they love what I bring to the table when I can do it.
Right.
And I think that that's a major thing that many influencers don't get. And many celebrities have a hard problem with coping with, understanding how the currency works and how the influence works. And right now we're going for a really interesting point where influence used to be the currency. How many likes do you get? How many comments do you get? Who shared it? How many followers are on your social media? But that's just changed. The currency that matters now is how big is your community? Is your community, not your followers, the people who buy into you, the people who are following your thought leadership. How deep do their roots go in their emotional values with you? That's what advertisers want to reach, because they know that if you've got a big group of people who love what you do and they're with you, if they drop in their product and you recommend it, it spreads amongst those people and it stays with those people. Not the big names the same way. I mean, if you're a Kardashian, you're a Kardashian anyway, but most people aren't. And that's a real change in the wind right now. And I think that what's interesting is those thought leaders that we are talking about. Some are authors, some are podcasters like yourself as well. What you do is you fill the gap between a really strange political field, because politics has always seemed out of our hands.
Yep.
Running the world is out of our hands, but looking after a community of people who don't bother watching the news because it's fake or biased or partisan, it means you get your news from the people around you. And that's the bottom line. So what you do with podcasting, what you do with your books, and what you do with creating a relationship around the people who buy into you is, for now, the most important thing you can do.
Very interesting. You talk a lot about reinventions. What's been your biggest reinvention? Has that been a game changer for you?
When you're in a position where you never fit in, you realize that there is no comfort zone.
Fantastic.
So you have to invent your comfort zone, which is about being discomforted all the time. I'm uncomfortable all the time. And now I know that's the case. It means I feel comfortable in that flux, in that change. So strangely enough, when the pandemic hit us, and like every entertainer on the planet, every speaker on the planet, every presenter on the planet, anybody who's in a band or an entertainer who needs a live audience, I went from hero to zero, busy to no work for 2 years. My wife was a wedding photographer, no work for 2 years. We just couldn't gather audiences together. So what did I do to be able to look after my family in an expensive part of the world? I went back to my original reasoning of how to stay outside your comfort zone, of reinvention, about thinking of who you are and what you do. And being able to be successful and happy in your life there's a thing called the 𝗗𝗃𝗲, which is a Japanese way of looking at it with 4 circles. I like to look at the hedgehog concept, which is easy to understand with just 3 circles. And that hedgehog concept says there's 3 consecutive circles in a Venn diagram. One of them is, what are you best in the world at doing? The next one is, what are you passionate about? And the third one is, what will people pay for? What's your business model? If you can work out what you're brilliant at doing, what you love to do, and what people will pay for, just do that for the rest of your life. So for me, before the pandemic, what do I love to do? I love to help people and coach people. What am I really good at doing? Speaking in front of people. And what will pay? Well, speaking in front of people, doing concerts and events, and also teaching CEOs how to be speakers. That was my business model. Perfect. But then when all the gigs finished, I thought, you got to go back to this hedgehog concept. The reason it's called a hedgehog is because a hedgehog is a porcupine type creature, and it's not brilliant at anything, but what nature gave it is the ability to get rid of all predators by curling up into a ball with spikes on the outside, so nothing can naturally get it. So it's just acting like itself, but it's a brilliant defense. So work out what you are really good at. If you do that, nothing can knock you off the top. So I realized that if I go back to this hedgehog concept, what am I brilliant at doing? Speaking, yes, but I also know how to be a celebrity. I walked away from being a celebrity. That's got to be something. What do I love doing? Helping people to be better than they were before I first met them. And what will people pay for? Well, who are the people that would pay to be a celebrity? People who are not celebrities. People who are really good at what they do. They're earning good money, but they're invisible. Why don't I create thought leaders? Why don't I create industry icons, help you to promote yourself so you're the best in your niche? So you don't have fame recognized everywhere. Oh my goodness, cover my face, but what you do have is massive respect from the people in your industry who recognize how good you are. Even if you're not the best, you're the loudest and the most recognized. So therefore, people give you that credibility because of the way the world works right now. But also, you're able to then turn that into a business model that allows you to grow, and it elevates all your other businesses, and it allows people to connect with you. And so that's what I did. I created the Industry Icon program, and I've worked with people now for the last 5 years or so. And because I went online 200 times during the pandemic, because how are you going to reach people when you're stuck in your house?
Wow.
I turned my home office into a green screen studio. I bought software that allowed me to treat it like a news program, so I could have graphics pop up and show videos and all sorts. I went live for 200 shows. It meant my clients could be anywhere in the world, and they are. Literally everyone I talk to, some are based in Dubai, most of them elsewhere. And it was really important because when we talk about reinvention, I know now that if we had to go through a similar experience as we went through with COVID, my business wouldn't fail at all because I've already been through this once. The ability to reinvent and look at it and not panic, but just say, what do I do next, is really important. Right now in the business world, we're told every 3 months, AI is changing the landscape. You bring a product out, you better get it ready for the next thing that's going to happen, and the next thing going to happen. But for me, this is my bread and butter. Reinvention is perfect. I love it, and I constantly do it. So I know that the old me is an old me. There's a new one coming. But you can only really read life backwards. And also, it's like being in a car. If you're driving a fast car, outside people going, wow, that's going fast. But the truth is, you're just inside a car. It doesn't seem that fast at all. And as you get older and as you get more gray hairs, as I'm sure you're going to experience more of in the future, you realize that what's in here stays the same age. What's outer is different, and the world changes, but reinvention should be a part of your daily diet. And that's why I love it so much.
Very nice. So from being a stage hypnotist to an executive coach, that's a massive leap. How did that happen?
It's a massive leap if your business card title is what you believe you are. But here's the thing. We talked earlier about my childhood.
Yep.
I had to learn who I was, and I knew I would never fit in. So what happens over a period of time, you'll learn algorithms and you learn the formulas and strategies to be able to fit in, to position yourself, to market yourself, to get on with people. Because I was one of the top DJs in the country when I was on the radio, when I decided I didn't want to be a DJ anymore, I decided, well, what's the next thing? I still need to be an entertainer, but I don't really want to play music anymore. So I thought, well, can I be a singer? Well, no, there's lots of singers, musicians better than me. Can I be a magician? I hadn't got the patience to invest in bunch of flowers. Oh, pick a card. Don't pick a card. Don't care. But then I thought, stage hypnosis, if that's real, I'm fascinated. I want to be able to do that. I couldn't learn it in Dubai because there was no stage hypnosis schools. But what I could learn is to be a hypnotherapist. So I became a hypnotherapist, NLP master practitioner. Then I went to Vegas and learned to be a stage hypnotist. Came back, said, I'm a stage hypnotist. Who wants to work with me? And nobody said anything because they didn't know what it was. And also what's different in this part of the world is people don't like to lose face on stage because it has a direct effect on their business if they look silly. In the West, that's different. It's like karaoke. Get up there, do it. You are amazing, so funny. Yeah, thank you very much. Here, because they're not sure what to think about it, it didn't take off the same way. But what it did teach me was really the grounding for being a therapist. So I could learn to be a therapist here before I became a stage hypnotist. And so as a business coach, life coach, therapist, and NLP master prac, and also doing energy healing at the same time, it gave me a lot of skills to learn how to help people. And so initially as a hypnotist, you help people to stop smoking, deal with childhood issues, deal with stress, help them visualize their success in the future. That's all bread and butter for a hypnotist. But to then go into teaching people how to become successful mentors, it's not that much of a jump. All it is putting a different spin on the same skills I have. And also a lot of the work I do is I show people how to stand on a big stage, get over their fear of stage fright, and become really good at working live audiences. And that's something that I do all the time anyway, to the point where I had to reverse engineer. Why would people be scared of an audience? And one of the things that's really strange is people think that an audience is going to judge them. An audience doesn't judge you. An audience assesses whether what you say is going to be of value to me. So should I sit here and pay attention to it? They don't care what you look like. They don't care who you are. They just care what's in it for me. So if you're great at delivering, that means that people will want to know and will follow you. Even if you're ugly, they'll still do it. And right now, in a world where everything's being driven by that community, by that impact, by the ability to say, I've got a plan and you should pay for it, and pitching and big launches of products, we have this really interesting thing where your ability to communicate and reach an audience and use social media as part of that, the new media, is the bottom line in whether you'll be successful or not. If you're invisible, you're forgettable. If you stand out and you can say, this is what I do, then people will then think that you're somebody who they should be paying attention to, even if you're not that good at it. That's the way we think nowadays. And it's a really interesting landscape. There's a load of people, I'm sure you interview a lot of people where you go, what a fascinating person. Or you meet another person and you say, wow, that was empty. I don't want to do that as an interview. It's all smoke and mirrors. But I think now we're seeing the real deal. The real deal, when you meet somebody who's really good at what they do, if they want to do that properly, they need to be able to speak. 70% of great inventions never reached the public. Why? Because people couldn't sell them. Couldn't sell it, couldn't get investors, anything. I mean, die with the person who invented it. And so it's an interesting landscape where social media advertises and elevates and amplifies if you know how to use it.
From UN to UAE. You've spoken at events covering UN, the ICC World Cup, and many such illustrious examples. Let me ask you a straight question. Did you ever feel while you are living that life, you told me that you've been in and out of limelight all throughout your career, but was there a surreal moment where you felt, okay, this is the life I want to live? Is that something that ever happened to you? Is there an example you want to share with the audience?
I think that in the radio days, when Dubai was just growing as a country, and now it became the go-to place for people who wanted to do something special. I think in those days I had the best of everything. And so that was probably my wake up and wow type thing. But it was tempered by the fact that the celebrity world, the radio world, at the time in Dubai, the biggest celebrities were probably going to be the radio guys. So many came and went. Because that's what happens in radio or in TV or in any office. People come, they do well, and they stay. They mess up and they go. Contract comes to an end and they go. Or they got family reasons or whatever it is and they go. And it makes you realize that nothing lasts forever. And a very dear friend of mine, Duncan Wood, who runs Laughter Factory, he and Gail have been running it now for about 30 years, which is the longest standing comedy night in the region. He used to say to me, Dave, all the time I'm inundated by radio guys who come to me and say, I've just lost my job. What do I do next? He said, it's happened so frequently, I don't even think about it now. And I think it's really important to know that you have skills you can fall back on and also balance it right. Johnny Depp, when he was in court with Amber Heard and all the world is paying attention to all the little sleazy secrets, and I felt sorry for both of them because, yeah, they're both weird and they're actors and in a different world, but they didn't want to share that world with anybody. As long as you do it behind closed doors, knock yourself out, which clearly they did many times. And I think that when you look at people like Sean Penn and you look at people like Daniel Day-Lewis, so all famous actors, they are very selective about what part of the media gets to see them and what part of the media is not invited behind closed doors. And I think that in order to have your sanity, it's really important. One of the things that I did before I went to study my postgraduate diploma in radio journalism, I dropped out of law school and went away to holiday resorts in the UK where I was an entertainer and I learned to be brilliant at working live audiences. And one of the things that was so important is you're a celebrity on a holiday resort. And so everybody sees you, you're their famous people, they want to talk to you, they want to know what's going on, all that stuff. But the real you is only important to you and your close friends. So when you stop working, you close the doors, and there's you and everybody, and you can say anything to anybody. When you leave there, nobody needs to know. Yeah, because they don't want to know. If you tell people the truth, what's going on behind the scenes, they love the gossip, but then they don't care. And you've poured your heart out, and you're still back where you were, with a risk of it getting back to you, that somebody knows that you said something about them. So I think it's really important to have your own counsel and your ability to live life, not like the Truman Show, so everybody sees what's going on, but to select what you want people to see. So creating a character who you put on social media is very important. It's an optimized version, but you need to know who your audience is. And you create a character and give them what they want. That means you're influential. That means you're creating a community. If you give people everything who you are and they reject you, there's nothing left. And I think it's a huge danger that many people go through. And I think it can be incredibly toxic if all you do is go online, you burn out, and the mood changes. You might think something's really important, and it might not be important because something changes in the zeitgeist of the way that the world thinks, in which case everything you said makes you old hat.
Yeah.
So are you going to reinvent yourself and do something different? And people say, oh, you've changed now. I thought you were that guy. Or do you just put out what you want people to see and let them not know the inner side? There's a side to me of my family that nobody needs to know and nobody really cares about. It's not interesting. I'm just a dad. This week, 2-3 days ago, I had 2 beautiful dogs. One of them got really old and I had to have her put to sleep.
Oh.
It's terrible. All my pictures, all my everything, it's me, my wife, my kid, my 2 dogs. But that's life. It happens. You do the best humane stuff that you can. And one day my daughter will be talking about her dad or not. Life moves on. And it's about the mistake that I think most people make is goal setting. I'll tell you why. The idea that one day I want to be this and I'm aiming for that means you miss out on every other day on the way there. And when you get there and you've got that goal, you go, oh, is that it? Really? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, that's what it is like. Okay, well, what happens next? Well, what do you want to do next? I never thought about it like that. Set small goals, but walk towards them and enjoy every single day. It's a gift. I never realized until COVID came along and my dad passed from it, the most important thing that we have is the ability to breathe.
Absolutely.
I never saw oxygen as a currency. And I often joke about the fact that when you have to buy water from an authority in every country and they decide what your water rates are going to be, how long is it going to be until they start saying, we're going to tax you for air? We produce clean air, and if you don't pay your money, you don't get to have any. Now, that's a joke right now, but it could be privatized. I shouldn't give ideas to people now, should I? That'd be a terrible idea.
Absolutely shouldn't. The thought leadership's playbook.
Yeah.
It's almost like a playbook to anybody who wants to build a brand and become an
Exactly what it is. And here's the thing. So it's a go-to book. It's too big. It's got 400 pages in it with exercises of how to get from wanting to be known for what you do to being very successful in what you do and everyone gets to see about it.
Yep.
And so anybody who starts from the beginning and gets to the end will do very well. Now, most people who write books get it wrong. So here we are in this beautiful studio and there's books everywhere. And most people write a book. They write a book because it's inside them. Say, I've got to write this book. I've always wanted to share this book. And my mentor, really smart guy, best-selling author, multi-millionaire success story, Jeff Smith, turned around to me during a pandemic and said, you've got to write a book. I said, okay, well, I've got about 3 books lined up. He said, oh, which is the one you're going to do? I said, speak on stage for CEOs. He said, what is it? I said, as it said, it teaches CEOs how to speak on stage. And he said, right, okay, so who's it for? I said, CEOs. He said, okay. He said, so why would they want to buy your book? I said, because they're terrible at speaking. And they are. Most CEOs are terrible on a live stage because everyone claps because they have to, because it's the boss. They only ever talk about their business, which if you realize what's in it for me is about your audience, most people don't care about your business unless it's what's in it for them. And so they've got this false sense of being an entertainer because people laugh at what they joke about and take it seriously, but they're not very good on a microphone. Half the time a microphone's too far away from the face. And so I watch this and I host a lot of events where I've got to teach them or at least pick up the pieces after they've done it. And so this was a guidebook to help them to be better speakers and also to realize how to market your company better and also how to align what you say on stage with a call to action so people then want to do business with you. Because the bottom line is a really good speaking CEO is worth an extra 20% of revenue to the boss who goes out to speak. If you've got a branded CEO like Mark Zuckerberg, say, whatever he does, you think Facebook, Meta, that's the guy. He's got something that's interesting. But if your CEO drops the ball badly, like Elon Musk did with Tesla, then it crashes badly. So if you get it right, it's right. So my friend turned around to me and said, well, let me tell you the truth about CEOs. They don't want to be better speakers. I went, what? He said, think about it. They want to be more effective communicators, but they don't want to be a speaker. They want to be a CEO. They want to run their business. They want to be able to go on stage, say the stuff. Everyone in there knows what to do next. They go back to their office and have their meetings. And it made me realize, oh my goodness, you're right. That's not what the book should be about. Maybe I should do speaking for dummies so anyone can pick the book up, go to page 12, how to talk to your team, and there's a script in there that you can use, and that's what you print out, you fill it in, you say that, then put it back on the shelf, done. So it made me realize that people do books the wrong way. So most people who've got a book end up with a box full of books stuck in their garage, pages going green. Nobody wants to buy it because they don't think about how to write a book properly. What you've got to do is you get your book idea, you think, who's it for? And you write the back page first, the cover first, about how what this book is for people who want to X, Y, Z, and it will help you do da, 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 da. When you write that first, then that means that when you start writing your book, it still has to end up with that sales page being the reason why the book exists. Otherwise, you can't market it and nobody's interested in it. So for me, the Thought Leader's Playbook, when my program is the Industry Icon program, it's called the Thought Leader Playbook because nobody knows what the Industry Icon is unless they're working with me. And I realized that so many people now need to be a thought leader if they want to be the new kind of influencer. Because nobody cares if you're gorgeous and your dinner looks fascinating. They want to know, what are you going to do to make my life more enhanced? And that's thought leadership. And I've been studying this I went on stage the first time when I was 3 years old, shows at school, and I'm now almost 60. So I've had over 5 decades of learning what makes celebrity, what makes people tick, how to entertain, what the trends are around the world. So I'm in a pretty good position to be able to help and advise people on what thought leadership should be. And as a direct result of that, the Thought Leaders Playbook, which is available for people to buy on Amazon, is also a community that I'm putting together. I've got 600 people in it already. Some of the biggest hitters on LinkedIn have joined, and it's going to be an agency where we help to an incubator agency where we grow people so they learn how to speak, how to market, how to podcast, how to write books, how to do all those things. And for those who have a top level, when people need a speaker, they can go to our community and find some of the best in the world who are fully ready to go on and give a 10 out of 10 speech that was, a great speech is like a rock concert. It's a spoken concert. And when you can do that properly and you get the audience to clap at the end of it, it's the best thing ever.
We are in the age of AI, where AI is changing the content landscape completely. How do thought leaders and executives stay relevant in these times?
I love that. One of my clients on the Industry Icons is one of the pioneers of AI. And so when I talk about, when we first got together, started working together, I met him at an event called Sigma in Malta, and I was hosting there. And he said that he's been working in AI for decades. It's not new. It's just now current to what we talk about. It's more commercially available, but it's been around for a long time. It's been around for much longer than that. And so when we started looking at what it really is, I said to him, this is why I started working with, I said, soon everyone's going to want you. And so you have to be ready to speak about what you do. You can't just be a smart guy. And I think for thought leadership, for CEOs, for anybody who's involved in it, if you don't have AI in your life, then you are allowing somebody who's worse than you in experience, not as smart as you, to be better than you, because with AI, they will just be able to do more than you can. It's just a fact. What AI does is it allows you to enhance and amplify the mundane. So stuff that you don't really want to do, you can get AI to do.
Yeah.
You can also now set up so you have agents that work with you. So they say the next billionaire will be a single person with AI agents. Previous to that, the next billionaire would be 3 people working in the garage. And before that, you had to have 20 people and then, 2,000 people if you go back to what made $1 billion company. So what I believe that we really need to do now is we need to lean into our humanity. That is the currency that AI will never be able to reproduce, or at least right now it can't. So getting it wrong, but still establishing your trust, authority, and credibility means that you're human.
True.
If I talk to camera and start saying something and I get it wrong, but then I say something and it was worth waiting for, it shows it wasn't written by AI. It shows that I know what I'm talking about. And that means you've got to have great communication skills. It means you've got to have empathy. You've got to know who your audience is. You've got to make their lives better than they were before you got them. And you've got to be able to adapt on the spur of the moment and come up with a solution that most people wouldn't think of, where your experience and all the things and all you do come together really well. AI can do a ton of things, and it will be able to do all those things. The thing that they're aiming at right now with AI is the ability to make it empathetic, so it understands emotions better.
Right.
But it's still an algorithm at the end of the day. And it's never, I get so frustrated with my AI at the moment because it keeps being forgetful. Because I want to continue a thread on ChatGPT, and then it goes back to, if I say, okay, forget that, let's do something else, it doesn't stop going back to it. So that will be ironed out. That'll be better. But I do think that your ability to be who you are and lean into that, your humanity skills are paramount. And the great thing about it is those are the things that the corporate world got rid of. Don't be yourself, be part of a team, be the way that we have it, wear that suit, sit in that seat, stop complaining about things. We don't need to know that. That's not what we do in this company. That's exactly what you need to do in this company, because those are the skills like diversity, understanding that if you've got a really diverse workforce, then they will bring to you conversations that you wouldn't get from anywhere else if you're the same as everybody else.
Right.
And what AI does, it gives you a really good view of what's out there, but ultimately it's for you to interpret and deliver. And that might change in the future. I think the thing that's going to change AI more than anything is when we start getting robots in the home, which is not far away, because that's coming from Elon Musk is doing it. Lots of people are creating robots. I remember going to NASA and I was watching the robots they were building there. They're able to jump onto things and lift up things and walk around. I was thinking, my goodness, that's already here. Well, it will be in shops probably in the next year that you can buy your own home robot. So what that will do is that'll disguise what AI really is, because you'll personalize it as being the voice of that thing.
Yeah.
But I really do feel that our ability to be ourselves and leaning into that and understanding the one thing that you do better than anybody else and who's interested in that and amplifying it is your route to market. Everybody is trying to be like everybody else. There's a formula for being paid, and you're a very successful businessman. So I'm going to ask you a question and put you on the spot. What is a formula for being paid?
To solve problems of the other person.
And
to be nice to everybody around you.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can be successful and solve problems and people don't like you, but you still... My plumber comes around to fix my sink. I don't even like him, but I know he did a great job. So don't tell me about how you fix the sink. Just fix it. There's your money. I'll call you again when I need you. There's 2 factors, 2 things of the formula. First one, as you've rightly said, your ability to deliver a job and solve a problem and fix it. The second thing is how cheaply you can be replaced by somebody else. That's why you get paid, So when you go to a coffee shop, Go to Starbucks or Costa Coffee or anywhere else. They've got some great waiters and waitresses and some lousy ones as well. The ones that remember your name, smile, and remember the coffee you want, fantastic. But would you stop going if that person left? No, because somebody else can do the job-ish. They ask my name, write it down. I'll find my own seat. It's not great, but that's why they get paid what they get paid. When you work out who you are and you add thought leadership to it and you amplify it with AI and you become irreplaceable and you're adapting every single day, so the one that they met yesterday, you're better than that every day. How can they replace you? And if they can't replace you, you can name your price if they need what you offer. Sorry, if they want what you offer. It's not about need. Does a world need flying costumes like Tony Stark? Yeah, we would. It'd be amazing. But here's the question for you as a businessman. If I was to give you two options to invest into a coffee cup holder that keeps your temperature of your coffee at exactly what you want to set it to, that you keep in the car and it doesn't spill, or a flying suit like Tony Stark, which one do you think would work better?
Coffee cup.
Because
there is a demand for it that I can be measuring.
everybody wants a version better of something that they already buy into. That's the Apple business model. The phone is no different to the previous one, It's just got a different number on it, but everyone goes, I've got to have the latest one. Why? It's that little bit better than the one I had before. I get mine every 4 years or so, because then the software doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Because it gets too hot. But if you were to say flying ships and flying, it's not what people are looking for. So it's not what they need, it's what they want. And that's a really crucial element when you're reaching your audience and creating your community. Find out what they want, give them that, and why would they need to go anywhere else?
Very good advice. You've been wearing different hats all this while, and I'm sure there are exciting times ahead of us as well. For my audience's sake, are there any secret projects that you're working on sidelines? Maybe you can spill some beans here.
Wow. Yes. I don't know if it's spilling beans. It's a continuation of what I do normally. See, here's the thing. When the pandemic hit, all my business disappeared completely. And I had to reinvent myself as an expert in how to be a celebrity, rather than trying to position myself as somebody who taught people to speak. And now that speaking gigs are back again, I've got a hybrid of those that I work on. But one of the things that hit me, and it might have hit many other people and they don't admit it or they don't know it. So when you're working really hard on everything, you're trying to make it all come together. I realized that I had anxiety and depression. I didn't know it. I'm a guy, so you don't know when these things happen to you. If you're female, then you tend to talk about these things and let off steam and support each other. Guys don't talk about these things because it's like a weakness. Oh my goodness, there's something wrong with you. And it's not a weakness, but it's something that's really hard for us to speak about. Because when we were hunter-gatherers and cavemen, we would go off in silence to go and hunt something. Whereas the women would gather berries and nuts and fruit and bring the kids. And that's modern shopping. That's what shopping is. We would go out in silence to do our own thing. And so I had a real challenge, which is when the work started coming back in again, I was still burnt. And I didn't burn out. I didn't allow myself to drop the ball because I had to look after my family and still bring an income. I was called burn in. What burn in is, it's like getting your tires stuck in the sand. You're still revving, but you're not moving. So
Right.
every day I was burning, and not moving anywhere. And so my wife said to me, what you need to do is take a Saturday off. And I went, I can't do that. I've got work to do. She said, Saturday is your golden day. Don't do it. Don't work anymore. I've got to admit, I do a little bit sometimes. And it was amazing to think that I could take my foot off the gas. So what ended up happening was I realized that in order to cope with the depression that I felt and the anxiety that I was feeling, I wasn't broken. I was just with a slow burning pain, and nobody could help me. Nobody could say it. I could say to my closest friends that there's an issue there, but they're not therapists. They don't know what to say. And there's an interesting thing called the airport test, which is if something happens to your family and your friends had to if a war broke out,
Yeah.
and you had to rely on your family and friends to get you to the airport, or a friend to get your family to the airport. You're incapacitated. How many people can you rely on that would do that? I'll throw that as a question to you, to Sunny. How many people could you rely on get your family to an airport and to safety if you weren't here?
Maybe 5 of my closest people.
5 people. That's the airport test. Not the people we know, not the people we do business with. How many would say selflessly, that is my job, I will take it on, that's my brother, I will do that. So I realized that I didn't have enough. I had 5 people in different, I'm 30 years in Dubai, they've all left. I don't stay in contact enough. And as an entertainer, I'm actually a massive introvert, because when I'm not holding a microphone, I don't talk to people. My family is the only ones there. And there's an interesting thing my daughter brought up the other day, which is called a social battery. Do you know about social batteries?
No.
You'll get this as an entertainer. There's only so much of social you can have that you give out and share with people without deflating your battery, like your phone, and then you've got to take a rest, charge it up again, and then go out again. Does that make sense?
It does.
I love that phrase. I didn't know it existed. My daughter she was staying at a friend's house, and she said, "Mommy, one of my friends wants to meet on the afternoon, but I don't really want to go. I want to recharge my social battery." And to which I was like, "Well, what is that?" And she said, "Well, my wife said, well, just tell her that your mum says you can't go." So she's like, "Oh, great excuse." And so that's when she used to. So I realized that I didn't have the ability to heal myself. I wasn't surrounded by people who wanted to help me either. I didn't want to talk to strangers, because you run a risk that people might just drop the ball on you when you've shared everything. So I started building communities, a community that was, it sounds arrogant to say Dave-shaped, but people who felt the same way that I felt. And having grown up in Dubai, I know that the best way to do it is have a financial reason and a social reason why people would want to play. So I created a WhatsApp group called Turbocharge Your Career, which taught people branding and so on. And then when I brought my book out, I created a new one, which is the Thought Leaders Playbook, a group which is going to become my incubator and my agency. And so that's the answer to the question, really. What drives me and what makes me do what I do is the need to connect, and knowing that the world has a lot of lost people. And not everybody's going to like me and want to work with me, which is fine as well. But those who do buy into my vision, they're very welcome to be part of it.
A final question to you, Dave. There are a lot of listeners today who might be stuck in their lives, who might be finding a path, maybe reinvent themselves, as you always say. Is there a message for this audience, for those who need to hear something loud and clear from your desk that can help them?
There's a thing called the signature message, which every speaker should have, and every leader should have. And it's a meme or a phrase as to who you really are and what you've always done. We've all got algorithms that drive us to do stuff. We all react the same way unless we make a point of changing it to same circumstances or different circumstances. And mine is very simple. Jump and grow wings on the way down. When I left the UK to come to Dubai, I left all my family and friends behind. I jumped and grew wings on the way down, making calculated risks. When I left radio to start a new career, I jumped and I grew wings on the way down. When I decided that after the pandemic, I'm going to launch a business to train people to be celebrities, nobody was teaching people how to do that at the time. Again, calculated risks. I know what I'm talking about. I think if there's one gift to leave your guests with, it's probably the biggest impact thing that I discovered. And it might work for you as well, Sunny, as well. So it's a gift for you too. So when the pandemic was over and I realized that I'd suffered from anxiety and depression, gigs started coming back. Events were happening. People would call me, "Dave, we want you to do this event. It's coming up." But the problem was I kept cancelling all the time because the CEO would get COVID and all the audience might not make it and they can't travel because of planes and whatever. So it was really hard for me to be able to work out how to be the way I was before the pandemic. Because what would happen I'd turn around to people and say, "Right, you want me to book me for this? You pay me 100% in advance and I will book it for you. That's your date. If you don't pay me, then maybe I'll be available, but I'm not going to hold on to it for you.
Yep.
Because people cancel left, right, and center, and they go, "Oh, I'm really sorry." Well, don't be as sorry as you want. It's a non-refundable deposit, but that's your space. If you believe in it and you want me, that's how we do it. I wasn't ready to do that after the pandemic because you needed the money, but you didn't want to put pressure on them. So we go, "I don't want to work with that guy," and it was just a game in my head. It was voices in my head saying, "Don't do that. You'll offend them," and then we'll go somewhere else. And so I realized that one of the key things to life is always ask better questions. That's a solution to everything. That's why ChatGPT is better, because, or any of the AI, it answers better questions when you ask them. If you ask a lousy question, you get a lousy answer. And so I thought, well, how can I do this? How can I fix this problem? And I thought, well, break out who you really are. And so the solution is 3 things. 3 different versions of you and me and our friends here in the studio. I'm watching at home as well. First version of you is a birth certificate version of you. You're born, you got a birth certificate. That version of you is on the register when you go to school.
Yep.
So you turn up not knowing anything about anything, play with toys, make friends, fall out, fight, eat, make embarrassing things happen, part of life. So my birth certificate, David Maxwell Crane, that's what it said. Went to school, first version of me. But then at school, you get to have a personality. You get to make friends, lose friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, all the things you get. And then it becomes social media and you get your job. And then that social media version of you has your name on it, on LinkedIn, on your Facebook, whatever it is. And so Dave Crane, radio personality, or whatever people see me as, was an invention out of David Maxwell Crane. That's the version I felt comfortable being, and that's what my friends called me, Dave. And so I realized that Dave Crane, as everybody knew him and I knew him, wasn't strong enough to deal with the world that I was getting into after the pandemic. He was still broken and bruised, and also when all the things you've had time to think about are still very much in your head and in your face, it's really hard to go out there bold and get stuck into business again. Many people had businesses that worked during the pandemic, and so they made more money. You know, we're online, and now we're more online in more countries. If you've got a real audience in front of you and you need that to pay your bills, then you were stuffed. It was terrible. So I thought, well, what can I do? Is there a third incarnation, a third version of me that I can tap into? I thought there is. When I'm at my very best, I've got a microphone and an audience, and I make snap decisions on the spur of the moment, live on TV or radio or live audience with lots of people watching. I've got sponsors. I've got people who are organizing the event. I've got the participants in the event. I've got guests. I've got all this. There's about 10, 11 different audiences at the same time, and the voice in my head tell me how to do this and the need to be able to sell this for the next. That's really difficult to do, and I do it effortlessly. I thought, well, it's called being in the zone. Sportsmen are the same. You meet somebody or a rock star, complete disaster off stage, but on stage, wow, oh my goodness. When you see people collecting their Oscar speech and you go, that's what they're like in real life, that's so disappointing. But when you see them give a performance, you go, what, the best actor in the world. Robert De Niro, grumpiest man in the world, but what a great actor. And so I thought, well, why don't I call the version of me that holds a microphone Max? Middle name's Maxwell, call him Max. So I decided that I would tap into Max and ask Max questions when Dave Crane found it really difficult to deal with. So I thought, right, people are not coming back to me. I've got proposals out there. Max, what should I do? And I'm not mad. I know what I'm doing. It's just a version of me. So Max said to me, my version of me said it, why don't you give them 24 hours on the proposal to get back and tell them that if in 24 hours they haven't got back to you, the contract is null and void. Okay, but 24 hours in post-pandemic, they've got to go to their procurement department, they've got to get the CEO to buy it. There's a lot of different steps. What if they just make it 48 hours or 72 hours and then that's it? That's a reasonable amount. So I did that. Because I didn't want to turn down Max so it just disappeared into the ether and I couldn't use it anymore. Because you've got to feed that version of you to make it bigger. So I did that. And I said, okay, so Max, let's make it 48 hours. And about 25% of my clients converted, and the other 75% disappeared. Some came back, some never did. But what it did was it meant I'm not waiting anymore. I can fill that gap with other people. And I realized it was a really good strategic way to do things. So I started adding Max's mindset into other things until I realized, why am I not just being Max? Nobody knows, nobody cares, only me. So when you have things that you're really good at, if you're a really good accountant and you sit there and you've got a problem that you've got to do some stuff and you get onto your accounts and then 3 o'clock in the morning, you got some incredible work you've done, or you're writing a book, or you're brilliant at, I don't know, anything from martial arts to sports to golf. There's a version of you that's brilliant at doing that. Why not let them take charge of the rest of your life? Because the reason you don't use them is everything around us tells us you're not good enough. You get told no thousands of times and you take it on your shoulders. What have you stopped? What if you just let that best version of you run you until it became comfortable and became you? That's why everybody needs to get their inner Max and put it all the time.
Very well said. And I think as you were saying that, I was going through my own thought process of probably creating the third avatar of my own self.
So I'm asking you now, on the record, when are you at your very best, Sunny?
I'm at my very best when I'm in front of people.
Be more specific. People that you're working with, people you're talking to on a microphone. What would it be? Colleagues, clients, employees?
I think I'm at my best in 2 scenarios. People that I lead who are in front of me, in front of the mic, and my clients. So those are the 2 scenarios where I'm at best.
Okay. And so did you have a nickname at school or a version of you that you've often thought about that would be like a superhero character or a different version?
Not really. I wish I had a Max in me, but obviously that's something I had to figure out. I was going by Sunny as his first name. So
okay. But did you have the version or a named version of that people who are closest to you? Is Sunny short for Sunil? Is it Sunil normally?
Sunny.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a version of you that your friends call you that isn't Sunny, or does everybody call you Sunny?
Lion at times.
Okay. Lion. So now, hello, Lion.
Hello.
That version of you as Lion, you don't need to tell anybody. It's none of their business. But I can see in your face already, there's a different version of you where your brain is going, oh, I like that. That Lion holds a microphone. That Lion is brilliant in front of a stage. It's brilliant in front of the staff, and shareholders, everybody. Why not let that Lion start running things for a little while and forget to take it back off him? That's when it gets really interesting, because that's when you step into that thought leader version of you. And it's been a pleasure doing this interview with you, Lion.
Absolutely, Max. It's been mutual. So ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing takeaway. I mean, I really like the way Dave closed this episode. You got to identify your Max. You got to identify and awaken your lions within and see how everything changes around it. David, I can't thank you enough. This episode has been a goldmine for me as well as the listeners. The kind of farsightedness that you carry, you obviously opened up almost like creating a virtual playbook here in the studio. And every single line that you spoke was pure gold. And I'm sure it's going to add a lot of value to a lot of lives out there. With that being said, once again, thank you so much for spending a Sunday afternoon in Dubai on our show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was my pleasure. I look forward to catching up again.
Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Dave 𝗗𝗃 from our Dubai studios. Please continue to follow us. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so we can bring more such meaningful conversations. Until then, this is me signing off. Thank you.